Jennie to the core could she have seen them first-hand. But she only heard of their antics from Guy, and thought that Guy and his circle must be the most dashing and elegant bloods in the world. Jennie was, in fact, spoiled through neglect. Although she was fed and clothed, she was often lonely and had no books to pass the weary hours. She was often unsure of herself and had no one but Guy to turn to, her grandparents never understanding a word she said, immersed as they were in the narrow channel of their own lives. And like all neglected children, Jennie would throw scenes and temper tantrums as the only way she knew to satisfy her craving for love and attention. Guy would soothe her and pet her and train her up in his own cynical, worldly philosophy, and with only Guy to listen to her, Jennie grew more and more dependent on the young man for comfort and advice. Guy was a regular visitor to the manor. Like Jennie, his parents were dead. He lived in comfortable lodging in St. James's, but found the manor a useful retreat from duns and creditors. He never failed to try to borrow money from Lord Charles, although he was hardly ever successful, Lord Charles becoming unaccountably deaf when anyone so much as hinted that his lordship should even part with a farthing. He also enjoyed Jennie's uncritical adoration, and in return brought her presents, told her there was no one in London to match her beauty, and also tried to instill into her young brain his own peculiar moral code. Jennie, now on the eve of her 18th birthday, believed that one could do almost anything one liked, provided one was not found out. Being found out, Guy would say, was a heinous crime. Marriage, Jennie learned, was the best future for a woman, not because she should fall in love and wish to have children, but because she would be free from the restrictions imposed on a single girl and be immediately able to set up a flirt. Women who were faithful to their husbands, Guy had told her, were the women who were too plain to catch the eye of anyone else. And Jennie would drink in all this and believe every word. Having a lover, in Jennie's mind, was simply having someone to flirt and intrigue with, as she flirted and intrigued with Guy. She was walking in the gardens of the manor, hoping Guy would arrive in time for her birthday as he had promised, when she heard her grandfather's peremptory bark echoing through the open windows of the Blue Saloon. "Jennie, fetch your grandmother and bring her here. We want to talk to you." Jennie looked startled. Her grandparents hardly ever wanted to see her about anything, that is, but would involve the presence of both of them. Her grandmother, she knew, would be in the still-room, and so she made her way there, secretly beginning to hope that her grandparents had actually, for once, bought her a birthday present. Lady Priscilla was weaving about the still-room with a vague sweet smile on her face. She had been making ice by putting equal parts of ether and water in a metal jug and then applying an air pump to the mixture. As usual, she had forgotten to open the little window in the still-room and had knocked herself silly with the ether fumes. With the ease of long practice, Jennie tugged open the window, placed a cover over the jug, stoppered the ether, and supported her grandmother from the room. Once they had reached the great hall, Lady Priscilla had recovered enough to straighten her cap and ask Jennie in an impatient voice what it was she wanted. "Grandfather wants me to bring you to the Blue Saloon," said Jennie. "Oh, yes, that," said Lady Priscilla, banging the side of her head with her hand to bring her weak eyes back into focus. "Most important, my dear. Follow me." Jennie meekly followed her grandmother into the Blue Saloon, a great room which looked out onto the shaggy lawns at the front of the house. A few threadbare rugs holding stands of spindly tables and chairs were dotted like islands here and there on the expansive sanded floor. The beams' ancestors stared down from their blackened canvases and dingy gold frames. Several clocks ticked away busily, set at every hour but the right one, and at least 6 dogs snored and wheezed and whooped as they chased rabbits in their sleep. Lord Charles looked up as they came into the room. He was a heavily built man, with a florid face and rather protruding pale blue eyes. He was wearing a powdered wig, slightly askew, and was dressed like a farmer with his stocky, muscular legs encased in gaiters. Lady Priscilla, by contrast, was pale and wispy, and always seemed to have things trailing from her body. A thin, wispy gauze stole, a long limp glove held in one hand, limp streamers